Hey everybody, this is Mike Bono from the North Andover Athletic Association, and you are listening to the Nightly News Podcast, the show that brings you inside the lines of North Andover High School athletics. All right, welcome back to the latest edition of the Nightly News Podcast. Back here with Al Aperti, my sidekick here. Welcome back, Al.
Hey, Mike.
And we're on a good streak here. We got 3 or 4 where we're both able to attend, which is good. And I think our special guest today is appropriate for Al because we just found out that Al played tennis at Lawrence High School.
Yep.
And we have our special guest is Coach Derek Williams, the head tennis coach at boys tennis coach at North Andover High School. Welcome, Coach, to the Nightly News Podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so
great to be here.
You are fairly new to North Andover High School. You started last year was your first year coaching. So just tell the community a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was fortunate enough to land here in Massachusetts because my oldest daughter had a baby last year, and my wife saw the baby. Thank you.
Congrats. First grandchild?
No, it's actually the fifth.
Oh!
Fifth grandchild, but the first one for her. And
great.
So my wife said we need to give our daughter and her husband a hand. So we came up here, and as soon as you lay eyes on the little grandson, then that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
So I came up here and just about a year ago, and talked with Steve Nugent, athletic director. He was new at that position also, and we hit it off. And I think we're going to work hard over the next season and several seasons after this to build a heck of a tennis program.
And where did you come from? You said you came up here. Where'd you come from?
Came from the now don't be envious, but I came from the sunny South in Charleston, South Carolina.
Nice.
It was 82 degrees last week.
All right. Stop rubbing it in.
June comes quick.
Maybe July. I don't know the way the weather's been lately. So you left the warm weather and that's great. Coming up for your family, and you landed in North Andover to coach it. So what about your tennis background? How does that all fit into this?
Well, I played college tennis, and then afterwards, after college, I taught in the Peter Burwish International Program, and that's a program that of tennis pros that teach all over the world. So there was probably back then there was probably 60 of us, probably a couple hundred now that coach in almost every area of the world. So I spent most of my time coaching and teaching in Hawaii, Japan, Indonesia,
wow,
Philippines.
Holy smokes!
Australia, New
Zealand. How long did you spend in on average? Like how long did you spend in Japan or Indonesia or Australia?
It was a kind of a different little scenario. The way it worked is and back then they didn't have cell phones like we do now, but you would get a telex or a wire to the hotel that you were staying at and teaching. Let's say it was in Hawaii. It said next week you need to be in Jakarta, Indonesia. And so you would get on a plane, fly to Jakarta, get off the plane. They'd pick you up, take you to the resort or the hotel or the complex that you'd be coaching at. Could be for a week, could be for 2 weeks, could be for 2 months.
It's almost like consulting, really.
Well, yeah, and then you would pick up and go to another location.
Yeah.
So it was just constantly moving.
Wow.
It was a great experience, and the quality of the instruction was phenomenal. So it was just a great opportunity for me.
I was just going to ask, do you have a favorite spot where you visited?
I like Japan a lot, and of course, who doesn't like Hawaii?
Yeah.
Did you coach anybody that we would recognize? Anybody famous?
I've worked with several people now. This is back in the days when it was Jimmy Connors and those
the
folks
80s,
like that. Yeah, and so I've hit with several of the pros at that level. But the people that I coached primarily were juniors that would be coming up on the tour, or on the other extreme, it could be tourists that were just there for a honeymoon or for a vacation. I've worked with just people all over, so it was a great opportunity for me.
Sure. Public school. tennis. You told me earlier it's your first experience, really. Most of the kids or people that you were teaching were paying a lot of money for their training. What's the difference? What's the big difference for you? Is it talent? Is it attitude? Is it combination?
Well, a lot of the teaching I did was, like I said, either extreme of tourists and people visiting, beautiful places around the world, or it was academies. And we spent a lot of time with academies, and those kids were schooled and trained on site. So that was their life. Their dream was to play professional tennis as a full-time opportunity, and so it was an expensive proposition for them to be schooled and coached full-time, year-round on property.
So the one I know about is Bollettieri, the academy,
Yeah,
right?
Nick Bollettieri.
Yeah, in Florida. So just for context, on that, say that or an academy similar to that you worked with, how many kids are we talking lived there in maybe a calendar year? Are you 30, 40, 60?
Oh, goodness. At Bollettieri's, back then, it was not as big as it is now. Now it's IMG Academy now. And Nick passed away about 4 months ago.
Wow.
Sorry to see. Great fella. He back then it could be anywhere from 60 to 80 kids in the program. Now it's in the hundreds.
Yeah. How many? What percentage would you say got to the point where they at least played a pro tournament or two of that 60 kids? Say how many would make it?
It's a very small percentage.
Yeah.
Most of the kids were really trying to play or were achieving the ability to play in college tennis,
Sure.
Division I college tennis.
Yeah.
But just like in any other sport, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, it weeds down pretty quickly once you get to the professional level.
Yeah.
In tennis, it's individual, so there's not like a team that you associate with. You don't get drafted. You're just out there on your own with your coach if you can afford one, or your parents, and just trying to grind it out and make a living.
Like golf.
Just like very similar to golf. You're right.
That so IMG bought Bollettieri. Is that because I've been to the IMG facility for soccer tournaments, and I mean the place is it's everything going on there.
Yeah.
Soccer, football, tennis. It's huge.
Yeah, it didn't start that way. Nick started the academy, and the funny thing is Nick was not a tennis player.
Really?
He didn't play tennis, but he had a great eye. He had a military background, so he kind of brought some discipline to the training in the sport of tennis. But with his success and as he aged a bit, he sold to IMG. They still use his name, and but like you said, that they have every sport now. I mean, from soccer to football to baseball to just about everything.
And the kids go to school there. Like that, they live there. They go to school and they live and breathe whatever sport. Yeah, whatever sport they're participating in. Right. They live and breathe that, and then they.
Right. The way the program works generally is that instead of in regular school, like a public school, they'll go to school 6 hours a day,
6.5, something like that,
and then play tennis for 2 hours from 4 to 6 or 2 to 4. And the academies is generally the opposite.
Gotcha.
You go to school for 2 or 3 hours, and then you're playing tennis for 6 or 7 hours.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where did you play in college?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Where did you play in college?
I played at a very small school outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, called Slippery Rock University. I actually went there on a football scholarship, and thought I was a big man on campus in high school. When I got there, I was the smallest guy on the team.
You know what's really funny though, that people wouldn't. When I was in high school for tennis, probably 40% of the kids on my team played football. And it seemed like that from kids I knew from other towns, same thing. Like there was a big crossover between the football kids in the fall and playing tennis in the spring. Well, it was always pretty funny to me.
Did you have a wicked forehand, Al?
I didn't have a wicked anything other than a wicked bad losing record.
The North last year was your first year. Tell us about how the year went. Your first experience with North Andover High School boys tennis.
Well, it was very interesting. When I first drove up to school, I thought it was at a college campus. I hadn't been in a high school in a long time. But it's a beautiful, beautiful facility, beautiful school. The faculty, the staff are phenomenal. I just really, that's what really spoke to me when I first arrived there. And then when I started to work with the kids, they're bright kids. they're boys that are just looking for some counsel is to be a better athlete and a better person. And so, I mean, I'm just loving it. They're not there because their parents are spending, $20,000 a month. They're there because they want to play tennis. And to me, it's an honor for me to be able to work with these kids.
Nice.
How does the program work at the high school? Like, is there varsity JV in freshmen, or is it just sort of one group of kids?
There is a varsity and a JV. Only, really, it's a starting lineup and then the JV.
Okay.
So if you start and you play the match, then you're a varsity basically. Then after the varsity match is played, then the other boys that are not in the varsity lineup, they're allowed to play the other schools. Non-varsity players.
How many starters are there, like, for varsity?
Well, we have three singles and three doubles.
And that's kind of the standard structure of high school.
Sure.
3 doubles now. When I was in high school, it was 3 and 2. Yeah. Only 2 doubles.
And they, one thing that I make it a rule, though, is that we don't cut anybody. Mm-hmm. So we've got kids that, matter of fact, I had a team meeting, the first one last week, and one kid said he just started playing tennis. He's in 11th grade. I've not seen him play, but, obviously he's not going to be as good as somebody that's been playing for the last 4 or 5 years, but we don't cut anybody.
Right.
If they want to come out and practice and work out with us, then they're welcome to.
Question for you. So what is your process for determining your starting lineup? Do you play in during the week, or do you just assign, who's going to be your 1, 2, and 3 and 1, 2, and 3?
We have playoffs. So in other words, you can challenge someone. So if you're a number, I'll rank everybody based on their skill level at the beginning, but that doesn't mean who starts because we have a couple of weeks before matches start. And they'll play round robins, and then whoever has the best record plays number 1 singles and so on. If somebody wants to play doubles, then they can opt for the doubles challenges.
When I was in high school, can a singles player play on a doubles team in the same match? Or
No.
Okay. We used to be able to. The third singles player could play on the second doubles team if it worked based on that match.
We have 18
enough players. Yeah.
Players. Last year, I think we had 23 players.
Wow.
So we don't.
Right. You don't need that.
We don't need to do that. I'm sure if we had to, then it would.
Sure.
But
was,
we're very, very fortunate. We've got a good bunch of kids.
Sure. How I failed to look at the record. I apologize. How did you guys do last year?
I knew you were going to ask that, so I had to go into my notes. Last year we were 8-5, which I want to take, and that wasn't reflective of the boys playing. It was more on me, because I didn't know how everything worked in a public school system. Sure. I would have rearranged lineups and people differently. But, again, at this point, we're not there to just win tennis matches. We're there to provide a good experience and train the kids. And it was new for me, and they were, I was new to them.
Sure.
So we had a little bit of adjustment, but we're going to come up firing.
Ready this year, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the year before that, before you came, they were 6-4. But a couple years before that, like going back to 2008, 17, 18, they were 11-5 and 14-2. So 14 and 2. So the program definitely has flourished in the past, and it continues to flourish, and I'm sure it will moving forward.
Yeah, the main thing I see right now is that there's not a program in place. In other words, it's basically you show up on the 20th of this month, and then 2 weeks later you start playing tennis matches. So I don't know whether they've been playing. I don't know where they've been playing. I don't know who's been coaching them. I don't know any of that. So I'm trying to get it worked out where we can keep them in a program year-round, because most of them do play indoors at some of the local clubs.
We have one here in town, the Willows,
Yep.
right?
And Cedardale up the road.
Yep.
And Spark is another one. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm trying to rein that into where we can know what they're doing and kind of get them on track so that they can be playing more tennis in a more organized fashion. So when the season comes up, we're ready to go. And also, I'd like to go down to the middle school level, even if we start with pickleball at the middle school level, so that at least they start hitting a ball. And
that's the one sport in town that's not. There's no league. There's no
There's no
structured-
booster club,
There's no
like-
booster tennis.
yeah.
There's everything else under the sun.
Oh, tennis, you mean?
Yeah, there's no youth league for
Oh.
tennis. There's volleyball, basketball, football, everything, but there's no tennis.
And that's what we have to develop.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, I think what you mentioned about being 11 and 4 or whatever, and then being less than that later, it goes up and down a lot more.
Sure.
Yeah.
To level it off and to get it steady, we need to build a program.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and it starts at the youth level. To your point, you just can't show up in 11th grade and say, yeah, you can play, but the impact on kind of winning, I guess, if that's the goal, probably is more limited.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a sixth grader now, and he's barely tall enough to reach over the net. And but right now, as good as he's been, I've been working with him for about 5 months. He could be on the varsity team this year, but he's only in sixth grade.
Sure.
So that's where you want it to start. You want it to start in the middle school and elementary school where they're playing and having fun, just enjoying it, and then it may stick for some and it may not.
Sure. What is the league looking like? Is Central Andover, Billerica still strong? Is that who's the Iron?
Andover is a very strong team. I know a lot of the kids. I've helped out at the Willows a few times, and seen some of the kids, and they're dedicated to it.
Yeah.
So they've got a very strong team, and I think we're coming right up behind them.
Good.
So you do private lessons aside from coaching? Is that accurate? Or
It's accurate, but it's mainly I'm just trying to keep tennis out there.
Yeah.
In the community. That's our main thing right now. Is it's kind of like like you said, there's no booster, there's no program and we need to develop that. It speaks to when we have 20 plus kids boys sign up for one team,
Right.
and I think the girls team has also gotten over 20 people. So there's 40 individuals that we don't know where they came from and how long they've been playing, but they show up and want to play tennis.
Right.
So we need to support it from the back end.
What's the hardest thing to improve upon at the high school level? What's the hardest skill?
Skill it's really a strategy. I tell the kids right away, I say, we may not be the best athletes. We don't have to be the best athletes, but we're doggone going to be the smartest. So if I can instill intelligence in how they play and how they think and process, that a smarter player can beat a stronger player every time.
Right.
So that's what I focus on, is not so much that they're going to be a superstar athlete, because they can't create that in 2 weeks.
Right.
But we can work on how to be smart.
The right shot at the right time.
Right shot, right time, build our strengths, look at the weaknesses. It's no different than a football team or a baseball team. Size doesn't matter a whole lot once you get out there if you're intelligent and you play.
Right.
I know conditioning at the pro level is important. You watch these matches and they go on for hours sometimes, right? And sometimes in the heat. But at the high school level, what's the conditioning that you put the team through?
Oddly enough, I don't.
You don't? Interesting.
And the reason is and this is, again, some of the things we teach the kids, is the average tennis point lasts three shots.
Is that like in high school or just in general?
That's anything below the pro level.
Okay.
And so when you only have, so you're really in spurts, and then you get a rest.
Right.
Pick up the ball, go to the fence, go get a drink of water, whatever it is.
There's no time clock.
There's no time clock. Not yet.
Not yet, right.
So it's really not important for us to condition, because I've not ever had a case where I've coached the kids and they just wiped out and tired. I've never had it happen. But what I do tell them is that we're going to play the smartest tennis and hit drop shot, make the other person make mistakes, and that works out fine.
What about strength training? As far as strength, does that help sort of upper body? Obviously, if you're righty, working out your arms and that stuff, or
well, again, I've got 2 boys. They were actually brothers. One of them's in 6th grade, and he's tiny. He hits the ball as hard as anybody I have on the team. And his brother is in 8th grade, and he's about 6'1", and he hits the ball. He hits 105 mile an hour serve.
Wow.
So, and he's a string bean. He's really tight.
His technique is like golf. It's like a golf swing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's really
Exactly. Now, off season, I mean, the kids get bigger and stronger just by being kids that are out playing and running around and doing things. So I don't really work on that as much at this level, and I don't have that much time to do it anyway. Right. And it's non-contact. It's not like soccer or baseball or football where they're going to run into anybody. I hope they don't. Anyway.
doing it wrong if they do.
That's right. But it's mainly, again, it's making decisions, knowing what to do, and learning how to play within yourself.
Sure. I know you said that it was only your first year last year, but who are you looking at this year? Who are your leaders, captains?
I always pick the seniors as captains, and this year we have 4, and they're a good bunch, very good bunch, very smart bunch. Tanae Jane is the lead captain. He's a senior. He played for us last year. All of them had played for us last year, and you know, I put a lot of responsibility on them. They're basically like an assistant coach,
Right.
and they have responsibility. And again, it's more than tennis. Tennis was, I was a football player, and that teaches you certain things, skill and how to be a young man, discipline, and so on. The same thing with tennis. That's the goal. Is when Tanae or the other captains go to college next year, is how do they know how to handle situations? How do they take responsibility? How do they volunteer and help the community? Those are the things that really is what this is about.
Sure.
Tennis is just a byproduct.
Yeah, sports is powerful that way in developing leaders and just teamwork and, you know, all those character development skills that go a long way, again, outside of high school, outside of, you know, just in life in general.
Yeah, we had one fellow last year. He was a very good player, Ben Polanski. He graduated. He went to Indiana to college. And I think he's playing on a club team there. And again, that's one out of the 20-some-odd kids that I had. So it's really the goal is to build good young men that, you know, will become good young adults.
Right.
Great. Yeah, so it sounds like, and as far as the MVC goes this year, you mentioned Andover. It's a full tilt, right? Like I know Lawrence has a team, Central has a team, Chelmsford has a team, Billerica has a team.
I think pretty much everybody.
I was looking at the schedule, and
yeah.
it seems like you guys play everybody, right? Like it's a full tilt.
Yeah, and I don't see when I look at the schedule and I look at last year's results. I really think outside of Andover, we've got a good shot with everybody.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see how we prepare and how they come in. And again, that's my main job is getting them ready.
You got to call in sick when it's time for those Andover kids to come for their practice at the Willows.
I think we're going to make those rain days.
Is there anything else, Coach, that you want to just mention? Actually, I wasn't going to talk. Before you do that, just talk a little bit about the culture. I think we kind of got a sense of it just based off of some of the things that you talked about, but just the culture that you're trying to build with the kids.
Yeah, again, it's a big part of. There's two rules, and I asked them. They asked the other day if they remembered what the rules were for last season, and they're the same for every season. There are two things that they can do and be removed from the team, and that is one, if they cuss, no foul language at all. One time, it's over. No, I made a mistake. No, I'm sorry. No, nothing. That's it. You're gone. The other is the racket never leaves your hand. So the first kid that throws a racket, slams a racket, does anything with a racket abuse basically, they're off the team. So it's really, again, you have to they represent the school, they represent their parents, they represent the town, they represent themselves. And if they can't do that every time, then they're in the wrong place.
We had Coach Flan, girls softball, in yesterday, and she has the same no cursing rule. And
well, it's not necessary.
Right.
You know, and we have to have restraint and build character.
Yep.
If we make excuses for it or if we let it slip here and there, then the whole bar slips. And that's my opinion. So that's really a big part of the culture, and then we work hard as a team. We win as a team, we lose as a team, and we always, congratulate the other team for, their success.
Those are the right lessons.
Yeah. We don't need any John McEnroe's or Nick Kyrgios or any of those.
I know it.
Anything else, Coach, that you wanna mention as part of the program or?
Well, last year I was very, very impressed and a little bit shocked and very impressed with the turnout at the matches.
Nice.
I didn't know what to expect. I didn't think about it really. But when we started playing, we ended up with 60, 70, 80 people.
Wow.
Around the fences, cheering
That's
the guys
impressive.
on and playing, and parents and grandparents and students.
Nice.
And that was very encouraging. So I hope we can keep that up. And I hope we can just really, focus on building a tennis program over the next several years and have some great young men come out of the program.
Great.
Little plug for the North Andover Athletic Association, the NAAA, which Al is the president of, and I am the treasurer. Those windscreens that go around the tennis court, like for each coach, whenever we buy something, we like to sort of point it out. We bought those windscreens, and so they weren't cheap either. Those things. I should have gotten the windscreen business years ago.
Way more expensive than you'd expect.
Oh my goodness gracious! Like thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But they are a huge benefit. I mean, and again, this was my first time doing this here in public school, but going around to some of the other schools, there's really some issues, and you could tell, whether it's court conditions or no windscreens, and it's a windy day, and it affects,
everything.
And the thing is when the kids from the other schools drive up and they see the logo and they see this windscreens up and it's a sharp-looking place, that makes a statement that they've come to the,
Right.
they've
It's the real
arrived
deal.
at the real place,
Yeah.
right?
Trying to figure out where all those people park, though. The 80 people, there's no parking down there.
I try not to look over there. But yeah, and I really appreciate what you guys do. The windscreens were, it's very impressive when you walk up to the courts and you see that, and you're from a visiting school, and if you're from North Andover, it makes you very proud.
Yeah, and yours are the newest, and they look great. Some of the others, I hate to say it, some of the others are starting to look a little shoddy, and we're going to have to replace them soon. And so, which segues nicely to, we have a night of comedy coming up, April 8th, Saturday, April 8th, night of comedy at the Clatter Club in Lawrence. Tickets are $2.75 for a table of 10 or $30 individual tickets, so please join us.
All right. Well, Coach, thanks again. It was a pleasure meeting you. You seem like a perfect person for this job. Love everything you're bringing to the program, and we'll be following you. Best of luck, and beat Andover.
That's right.
All right. Till next time, everybody. We'll talk to you later.